I was reviewing a spreadsheet when my phone vibrated across the desk. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then it vibrated again, sharper this time, like insistence. Her voice didn't ask how my day was going. "I just inherited millions," she said. No pause, no breath. "Pack your things. Get out of the apartment now." There was a faint echo, like she was already standing somewhere larger than me. I remember saying, "I'm at work," as if that mattered. "Then don't come back," she replied. "I'll have the papers ready." The line went dead before I could decide which emotion I was supposed to feel first. For a few seconds, I stared at the spreadsheet. The numbers didn't move. The room didn't react. No one looked up. I realized something uncomfortable in that moment. The world hadn't noticed my marriage end. I finished the workday. That wasn't bravery. It was containment. I answered emails, sat through a meeting, nodded at a joke I didn't hear. There's a particular numbness that feels like professionalism if you tilt your head the right way. When I finally drove home, the apartment lights were already on. Not warm, bright, surgical. My clothes were stacked near the door. Neat piles. Seasonal. She'd always liked efficiency. The framed photo from our anniversary was gone. The dent in the couch cushion where I always sat looked strangely healed. The divorce papers were on the kitchen counter, weighted down by a pen. No note. No accusation. Just a request, formatted and clipped. She didn't come out of the bedroom. I could hear drawers opening and closing. Momentum. Celebration disguised as organization. I signed. The pen felt lighter than I expected. I didn't ask for time. I didn't ask why. I didn't ask if this was really happening. I smiled, mostly to prove to myself that my face still worked, and said, "Good luck." That got her attention. She appeared in the doorway, studying me like she'd misread a line of text. "You don't have anything to say?" she asked. I thought of 100 things. Years of them. I chose none. I carried my bags to the car. The door closed behind me without ceremony. That night, I slept on a friend's couch. I didn't tell him the whole story, just enough to justify the silence. Sometime before dawn, the shock loosened its grip. What replaced it wasn't rage. It was inventory. I thought about the way I'd learned to be small without noticing. How often I'd deferred, not out of kindness but convenience. How being underestimated had slowly become a shared language between us. She decided. I adjusted. And then, somewhere between regret and insomnia, I remembered something practical. Her inheritance hadn't come from nowhere. It came from her uncle, who had been meticulous, suspicious, and fond of legal scaffolding. I remembered the dinners where he'd asked me questions she found boring. I remembered signing forms years ago when he set up trusts, insisting on transparency. For everyone involved. I hadn't hidden assets. I hadn't touched her money. But marriage leaves fingerprints on paperwork whether you want it to or not. The next afternoon, while I was buying toiletries I hadn't expected to need, my phone rang again. This time, the number came with a name and estate law firm. The attorney was polite, neutral, the kind of voice trained not to react to emotion. He explained that due to the timing of the inheritance and the dissolution of the marriage, certain disclosures were required. Joint tax history, shared liabilities, temporary holds, reviews. "This is standard," he said, before I could respond. "No accusations, just process." I thanked him and hung up. An hour later, she called. Her voice was different. Still controlled, but now threaded with irritation. "Did you talk to a lawyer?"
Yes.
"Why didn't you tell me this would happen?" I leaned against my car, watching people walk past with groceries and purpose. "I didn't know you wanted advance notice," I said. "You seemed in a hurry." There was a silence that felt heavier than shouting. "This complicates things," she said finally. "Things usually are," I replied. I didn't gloat. I didn't threaten. There was no leverage to flex, only gravity asserting itself. Authority had entered, not on my behalf, but on behalf of structure. The kind that doesn't care who feels powerful in the moment. We didn't speak again after that. The lawyers did. Over the next weeks, The marriage unraveled the way it had existed all along, efficiently, impersonally, without room for performance. The inheritance remained hers. The process remained slow. The certainty she'd wielded that afternoon never returned in the same shape. As for me, nothing miraculous happened. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt lighter in a way that was almost suspicious. There were moments I wanted to call her, to explain myself retroactively, to win an argument that no longer existed. I didn't. Silence turned out to be a discipline. Months later, when the last document was signed, I walked out of a municipal building and stood on the steps longer than necessary. Not because I was sad. Because I was recalibrating. I had lost a marriage quickly. I had regained myself slowly. And that felt like enough.